What's up? It's your boy Carcino here, and we're going to do the spoiler review for the movie It. Now, the reason why I hadn't put out a spoiler review, and I'm probably the only one on the planet who hasn't done it just yet, because I like to let people see the film before they actually go and spoil it for them. Putting out a spoiler review is just like, I understand y'all want to be first, but my goodness, and this is done by people who should know better. I'm like, man, you guys already giants. No matter when you put a video out, it's going to go to the top. Why y'all doing a spoiler review? Alright, whatever. But anyway, I can't knock what others do. Just do what you do. That's the name of the game. So, here we are, the spoiler review for It. Now, when Stephen King's It was going to be remade from the 90s miniseries that came on television, already I knew this was going to be huge. Because there's no way they could screw this up. It's actually 27 years based on the last time we seen the film, which ties into the movie plot that this thing that's an It doesn't have a name. They don't know where it comes from. It's just an It. And it comes every 27 years to feed on children. Now, when the film opens up, you see the little brother is Georgie. He was getting ready to fly his little paper boat and float it in the water. But his brother sends him in the basement to go and get this glue. And then you see these eyes that's kind of like watching him as he goes in and tries to get everything done that his brother wants. So he gets all these things done, and he comes up and he has the boat coming, floating down, and he bumps his head and runs into Pennywise, the clown, who tells him the whole entire circus is down there waiting for little Georgie. He has the boat in his hand and tells him, hey, you want to come get your boat? Your brother Richie would be upset. He's going to kill you if you lose this boat. So he manipulates Richie. Richie sticks his hand in to try to get the boat, and he bites his arm off. Now, we never saw that on the 90s series. We assumed that he just got bit or something when he reached in, because we saw his face just come up to the camera. Arr! But in here, it's very graphic. I didn't know if they were going to actually do that, and they did it. Bit his arm off, and you see Richie turn around. Georgie turns around with his one arm missing. He calls for his brother Georgie. Georgie calls for his brother Ben. And from that point on, the movie was lit. Lit. Because now you knew this was serious. You're like, whoa, he reaches an arm out, long arm comes and grabs Georgie, snatches him in. As he goes into the sewer, he's screaming his brother's name to save him. That's how crazy it was. Now, when you're looking at this film, you're looking at a situation where you have no idea what's going to happen next, how it's going to happen, who may be the next to go, who won't go. The whole cast is in disarray. As the brother Bill, who's the big brother and basically the leader of this entire crew, who has a stuttering problem that seemed to have come and existed due to the fact of his brother's disappearance. And he's traumatized. It's years later. It's about a couple months later now, almost a year. And kids are disappearing throughout this entire year. And no one seems to know what's going on. There's a curfew in place. People have to be in the houses by a certain time. So they're being bullied by this crazy bully who's way over the top. And the crazy bully and his group, they always picking on these kids. And the characters and the story of what make this movie so great is this cast of kids. This is like Goonies meets Nightmare on Elm Street. You know, and they're the kids of Elm Street. But these kids here are not some characters that you don't know that's about to be killed. These characters live there, and they're from the town of Derry. And the way these kids talk amongst themselves is like how kids would talk if they weren't around their parents. They curse, they do everything, and Richie steals the show because he's mostly the motor mouth of the entire crew. Beverly, the actress that plays her, she just was outstanding because she goes through a lot, being the only woman in the town that's hanging out with these groups that's called the Losers. Now, you've seen some very extreme scenes in here. You saw the word H carved as Henry, the other bully, carves the H into the big guy Ben into his stomach. And the clown, Pennywise, is tormenting each one of them individually, trying to get them scared with whatever they fear, trying to get them boosted up. Like he says, he's salting the meat, and that's what it's described as, is they taste better when they're scared, because he could taste the fear on them, he could smell the fear on them. So it gets him frustrated when he can't smell because it's not going to taste right if they're not scared. And from this point, Bill doesn't care. He believes his brother Richie is alive. His brother Georgie is alive. And he's going to do everything in his power to get Georgie back. So he's traced everything down to the sewers, and he wants to go down there and gets everybody together. Now, what I didn't understand is with Mike. With Mike, his character, he's going through, some type of withdrawal because his parents want him to, or the people that's raising him, his parents died in a fire, seemed to be set by some of the racist people in the town of Derry, who didn't like them because he was black. The bully Henry used to torment him because he was black and wanted him out of town. Here they played on it a little bit, but not as much, and that was a good thing they didn't go down that road of narrative, because you don't want to lose the identity of the movie. But Mike seems to be in town the most and know more about the town because of his father and the people that lived in the town, his grandfather and everyone, they telling him about how the town is. So in the original 90s series, he's the one that informs everybody about the history, as he was informing people in class about the history of Derry. But for some mysterious reason, Ben, the character who just transferred to Derry or just moved into town, that's why the bullies really bother him, because he wasn't born there like the rest of them. They just bully him because he's an out-of-towner. And he's, big and fat. So they just mess with Ben. And then they start carving a letter in there and in his chest. And they actually show it. And a lot of people don't know that he actually carves the H into his stomach. And when he does that and Ben flips over the banister, that's really it. He carved it into his belly. He put the line and then he did the T, because if you put it together, it would make an H. So a lot of people didn't get that, and it came and went so quick. But it flips over. He goes down there. He loses his knife, and all of a sudden he's so worried because his dad's going to kill him. So you could tell his dad is a very strict disciplinarian. And that is like his fear that he deals with, the fear of dealing with his father. Now, you have another scenario in which you have – 'cause Beverly's dealing with some things that's in her household. Her father's apparently giving the impression that he molests her. And she decides to cut her hair to look more like a boy so he wouldn't be attracted to her. You know, so she cuts her hair off. That's her fear. Mike's fear is about his parents dying, and then he's in there killing sheep, you know, in the town, you know, because that's what they got to do. They sell the meat, selling lamb chops, and that's what they got to do. You know, it's the business. And Stan, you know, he's in Hebrew school, and he's going through his motions in Hebrew, and he just don't have the time and patience for this. This is not what Stan wants at all. And he's afraid of this painting that's in the Hebrew class. Richie, nobody knows what was wrong with Richie. Richie never saw it. It never came from Richie. Richie was too confident. He had too much confidence in it, never really revealed his weaknesses. Eddie, he was afraid of disease. His mom kept him in the place, fear of everything, and she was giving him gazebos, some really garbage pills just to have him keep taking them. There was nothing wrong with Eddie whatsoever. So Richie breaks down and tells everybody once they start seeing the clown and everything that he was afraid of clowns. And that was the thing. Everybody starts seeing the clown, and he was like, look, I don't know what y'all talking about. Is it because all y'all are virgins? That's why y'all keep seeing clowns? I don't see it. Richie always bragged and had the motor mouth out of the whole crew. So when all of this is going down, they go in there and they start fighting it. What the problem I had is they had Ben give the speech Mike was supposed to give about doing the character base. Like as far as explaining like where everything was in the town. And I'm like, well, that don't make any sense. Why would he be doing that? That makes no sense to have him doing it when Mike is in the movie. Mike can give the speech himself. Why would you have Ben do it? He's the out-of-towner. So he's just like, I just go to the library and learn about the history of dairy, and this is what happened. But anyway, that happened. So, and that kid, Mike, that plays Mike, he is a dead ringer for Ali film. If they do a film on Classics Clay, they need to do it right now and start with this guy, Mike. He looks just like Muhammad Ali did when Muhammad Ali was a kid. I mean, exactly. Split an image of him. So, they need to start filming that like tomorrow. He can play that role in his sleep. Now, as far as the rest of the movie, Pennywise shows up and it's time to float. I mean, the actor who did this Pennywise was perfect because now we got the visual aid. We have a lot more to work with here. And you get to see the confusion, the twistedness in him, and he's doing this for survival. And that's what you're seeing it for. He doesn't do it just for the pleasure. He's doing this because this is what he does every 27 years. This is how he survives. He has to eat these children, so he has to turn into whatever he can to basically ward off these kids bothering him and everything else. So it's always something that they would fear or something that would draw them in, like a clown, a dancing clown. Pennywise is probably a real person, a real dancing clown who brought in a lot of kids, and he said, well, now that this guy's dead and gone, I'm going to take that identity and I'm going to use it because that breaks down the barriers. A dancing clown. That's going to bring the kids. And that's what he needs to eat. So he will become that image. But when he needs to get them fear, he knows how to turn into something they fear the most. And go right towards it. So, with him, it's entirely different. The creepiest scene, I think, was in the garage when the projector was going off. They did a really good job shooting that. scene. I really thought that was one of the most creepiest parts on there. And the way that picture came out and attacked attacked Stan. And that ended up having an effect on Stan, and you'll probably see that in chapter 2. And when it said chapter 1, most of the people were shocked because they hadn't even seen the original It from the 90s, the miniseries. You go back and watch that miniseries now, you will see that the beginning was great. Second part, not so much. And chapter 2, how they can avoid chapter 2 not sucking, is I doubt they play as many montages as they did in the second film to tell a backstory, because we kind of saw them all in this film. So we don't need to have all the back montages and everything. We can have a movie that flows a lot better than that animated series did. Every character had to face their fear when they faced off with Pennywise. Bill knew that It couldn't kill Beverly because she wasn't afraid. So what he would do is blind them with these lights that he had in his mouth, which in the book is called the dead lights, and that's what he is, a part of that alien race, and they feed off of children to survive. So It is really just trying to survive. He's another species trying to survive here, and they're fighting just to keep themselves afloat. These kids are just defending themselves, but he can't fight all of them off. Once they were separated, that's when he was able to pick them off and come get them. And he was going to take them out one by one. So down there, they're fighting him, and he's turning into the things they mostly fear. And for the first time, Bill is able to face his fear of Georgie and realize Georgie is gone. And once he shoots that pellet right into his head, he's like able to separate himself from the fact that Georgie's not alive anymore. He's able to accept that he's gone. Mike had to deal with the fact that, hey, my parents burnt up in a place. I have to face that fear. That's what happened. I got to move on. Richie had to deal with the fact he's afraid of clowns. And when Richie's down there and they're getting the advantage on him and none of the stuff is really working, Ben's fighting him back, Eddie's fighting back, and he's not afraid of the germs anymore. He's gotten over his mom, keep treating him like he's sick and he's not. Beverly faced her father. All of them went through their whole things. Stan really kind of never did. Stan was kind of just going with the flow, but he never really faced his fears and defeated it. So Stan was just there by happenstance. So while all of them are there, going through this process, he makes a deal. He's like, leave me, Bill, and I'll let the rest of you live. And you guys will live a long life. I'll stay here with Bill. You guys can live a long life. Just leave me alone. And I'll leave you guys alone. I can go into my deep sleep. So, naturally, you start to see, because they got the jump on him again. And that's when Richie was like, you know what? You dragged me down here, man. And now I got to kill this clown. He grabs a baseball bat and just started going out of town wailing on top of his head with this baseball bat. And he's fighting them off. And all of them are jumping in together, fighting it. So while all of them are fighting him and they're getting the drop on him, he backs all the way up and he's shaking because he's scared now. Because these kids they don't fear him anymore. And now he's scared because they're not afraid of him. And he falls in the hole and he kind of like breaks apart. into pieces and fades away and falls down a sewage drain. So where will he appear again? Of course he is. That's the end of chapter 1. But in chapter 2, it's very interesting to see how they're going to bring Pennywise back. But definitely this movie brought people back to the theaters because there hadn't even been a new movie come out last week. They just brought back Close Encounters of a Third Kind last week. It was terrible. And movies have really been a letdown this whole summer. It's been a lot of letdowns as everybody's banking on the end of the year to try to make their money. And Spider-Man didn't do what they thought it was going to do. A lot of movies didn't do what they thought it was going to do this year. And it was a major disappointment. But it lived up to the hype. The highest grossing horror movie ever in a weekend. Ever. It's your boy Carcino. I'm out. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification button. Blah, blah, blah.